morning everyone and welcome to News Issue. This is Mastura HUSSIN. Today we will have these sessions through online due to the COVID-19 situation. We cannot conduct it as usual. I hope everybody stay healthy and always follow the rules by KKM to together fight this virus. Just now we have shown to you the video about the violence in the media. Thus, here we will discuss furthermore in details about hot issue that been arise lately. Today we will look into the topic of the effects of violence in media towards the behavior of the society. Before we get further, let's watch this video together. Welcome back. For the general knowledge, let me explain about the definitions of the violence. According to Bashing, violence can be defined as an extreme kind of hostility with the primary purpose of causing significant bodily harms like bad injuries that require medical treatments or cause death. And for the violence of the media, it emphasizes as any intentions attempts by the individual that has the intentions to inflict harms on others by portraying it on the media. This endless list of movies or programs or any kinds of media that presents violence will slowly affect society. It will become worse when it more likely will teach the viewer to become more aggressive, especially the younger generation. Based on what I have read, there are statements stated that the children and youth who were exposed to violent behavior are more likely to behave aggressively after viewing the violent content. There were certain that the media violence has the potential to be established by the viewer aftermath without reasonable doubt. Therefore, childhood exposure to violence in the media is crystal clear that give an impact on society. Their aggressive behavior will affect the way they live and slowly will rotten the society as they were a continuing leader in the future. Okay, now I have surprise for you who are watching. Here we have a special guest, which is Professor Siti SUHAILA KAMALUDIN, or prefer to call Miss SUHAILA. She is a lecturer in University Pendidikan Malaysia, specialist in early childhood education. She has many experiences and knowledge regarding the issues today. So, Miss SUHAILA, let's begin our session with the first question. What are the ways media portray the violence in our society?
Alright, thank you, Miss Mastura. What are the ways media portraying the violence in our society? As we all know, media has become one of the most powerful forces in our society. Whether inside homes or on the streets, people are constantly bombarded with messages and images through numerous types of media. Unfortunately, the mass media today is filled with violent content. We can see that violence is highly exposed in the mass media now. The abundance of violence and aggression is spreading into our minds through these various media. Violence in media usually it is made disturbingly explicit or reduced for humorous value. They glorify and mark violence as fighting for justice or laughing for laughter. For example, Tom and Jerry. I know we all have been watched Tom and Jerry once at least when we child or even in this age. But you have dolph when Jerry slams Tom's head against the wall or when Tom tosses a piano at Jerry. It is violence, but we usually ignore it and find it hilarious instead. These acts are ultimately just violence, but they are what distinguish the show as a comedic classic. In the movies, also containing blood, realistic injuries, and torture action, such as The Matrix, True Lies, Kill Bill, are popular with society. This movie shows how explicit or graphic they are. Most of them feature blood, gore, and close-ups of the aggression and its consequences. According to Jones, such stimuli could be attractive, but they may produce negative emotions such as fear, disgust, or even pleasurable feelings. Action movies are in high demand because society thinks violence in entertainment is attractive. Similarly, in Malaysia, most of the television programs and other media content consists of violence content. For example, the movies Juana Rompit and KL Gangster contain elements that can encourage society to get involved and enjoy being violent. But in the end, it's a powerful form of entertainment that some even consider inspirational. Even if the message that they want to portray is that the problem can only be solved when evil is eliminated and justice triumphs through bloodshed, which is obviously unacceptable in real life. For video games that are played by adults and even children also mostly encourage violence, such as murder, rape, and arson. Mortal Kombat is the perfect example of the graphic violence in video games. It's known for its vast variety of inventive and violent fatalities in the arcades. They give gamers the thrill and pleasure of doing action that they would never be capable of doing in real life. In fact, when the game was first launched, it was cast such a stir that it prompted a congressional hearing in the United States, leading to the establishment of the Entertainment Software Rating Board (ESRB) game rating in 1994, according to Gretchen K. All of the mentioned movies and video games are allowed to be watched by all age groups, although there are a lot of violent scenes. Its accordance with the opinion of Walsh says that by the end of the 20th century, even more graphically violent games become available to players of all ages. This happens when some producers and film directors use the elements of violence to get a high rating from the viewer. Thus, to this end, much violence in visual media is made as a form of entertainment for the viewer who craves it and influence others to be interested.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Suhaila. Before the further discuss, let us watch the selections that we have provided.
News is so. Aisyah Hilbert, a housewife. I'd have a son 4 years old. He always watched the cartoon The Half Fight Sense. His favorite show was Ultraman and Kamen Riders. Sometimes he also watched the Wii shows with my husband when I am not around. Lately, I found him always try to act exactly like he watch. He show his fist to start fight with everyone he want. I think he getting influenced by the show. This. I try to limit the time for him watching the show by changing other channel that I think good for his development and suitable for his age.
Ms. Suhaila, just now we just hear the situations of a mother toward his son's behavior. As so far we're concerned, how does the violence in media affect the society behavior?
Good question, Ms. Mastura. As is known to all, the mass media has the capability to influence the audience value, belief, and behavior, especially of children. Therefore, the media plays a major role in the development of such behavior nowadays, as it has been widely spread. However, media violence can lead to aggression. Individual behavior learns from direct experience and from role model, usually through the media. In the media affect argument and oral HUSSIN suggests that media violence has short-term and long-term effect. According to HUSSIN, the short-term effects of media violence are largely attributed to priming, mimicry, or arousal. Priming process suggests that external stimuli can inherently be linked to cognition, such as the sight of gun being linked to aggressive thoughts. Mimicry is that watching media violence can lead to imitating the violent behavior. For example, 47 media violence contents and its effect on the audience anecdotal evidence. Copycat crimes will probably increase the likelihood of children behaving the same way. The theory is based on assumptions about emotional response, including anger, fear, and sexual arousal that are said to involve a substantial increase in sympathetic activation, such as elevated heart rate and blood pressure. According to the excitation transfer theory, psychological arousal that occurs due to an emotion decay relatively slowly and can linger on for some time after the cause of the emotion. Meanwhile, the long-term effects of media violence are due to observational learning and to the activation and desensitization of emotional process, such as desensitization theory by HUSSIN. According to the observational learning theories, children build cognitive script as a result of observing and imitating the activities of others. Children's observation of the behaviors around them, especially those seen in the media, shape normative beliefs about appropriate social behavior and scripts in part. As a result, children who are still learning scripts and motive view may become aggressive if they witness violent behavior in the media. Other than that, the second impact is desensitization effect, where emotional response is repeatedly evoked and the action tends to be associated with irrelevant emotion. Children will believe that acting violently is socially acceptable as the media portrays. Occasionally, the number of bullies, especially in schools, will increase. In addition, for some people, watching violence in the media becomes something enjoyable rather than anxious a result, which is the normal expected reaction to seeing such horrible, explicit imagery. And those people who are already aggressive will tend to use the media as further confirmation of their belief attitude, which is like reinforced through media content itself.
Okay, as we know, violence in media is greatly influence society behavior. So, Miss Suhaila, can you explain to what extent does the media act towards this violence content?
In Malaysia, there are laws that govern and prevent any kind of aggressive, inappropriate or violent content on the media application, which is Communication and Multimedia Act 1998 under Section 211, Prohibition against the provision of offensive content. By having this provision, the authorities and public can take an action towards any kind of inappropriate, violent, disturbing or triggered content. In Malaysia, there is one body which is Lembaga Penapis Filem that control and recheck any contents of the media before it being publicly aired. This body will review any contents, especially regarding with film, before it being released by the broadcast station or cinema. This body also the one who has authorities to rotate and give clarification about the age of the audience that's suitable to watch the movies or dramas. It also has power to make any restriction towards any international movies or dramas that are unsuitable from being published in Malaysia, as has been emphasized in Part 4 of Film Censorship Guidelines. However, there are some critical critics about the recommendation for the media platform, especially Netflix, to go through Lembaga Penapis Filem. There cannot be denied that most of the content on that platform has lack of censor, especially regards to the violence as it been used widely around the world. Maybe it seems possible to adapt with the Malaysian rules, as not all the countries are bound by it. This lacks to control all the kinds of content has shown the weakness of the media in preventing it. Therefore, it seems hard to take an action, as someone will arise the critics that the media is the medium for them in expressing their ideas and it should be independence for them in portrays any content on the media.
Thank you, Ms. Suhaila, for the explanation. Before we close this session, Ms. Suhaila, would you like to give the conclusion regarding this topic and some closing for our audience at home?
Thank you, Ms. Mastura. Ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, there is no doubt that violence that portrays on the media can give the effect towards the society as it influences the aggressive behavior by the youth. Sometimes it also influences the way of people think, not only based on the age, either youth or elder generation also will get influenced. With the advance of the technology nowadays, there are no limitations that can be used in preventing the violence content being posted virally on the media platform. Thus, the parenting control or guidance are needed for the children in watching any movies or dramas that has element of violence. Therefore, there are no specific ways to obtain the violence content being portrayed on the media, but the guidance or control are needed in narrowing the access to this content.
Okay, well, it's time to wrap up the show. Thank you for our lovely Miss Suhaila for joining us today. Remember, always wear the face mask and follow the rules to prevent this virus. Together, we'll fight this. We take care of all people. So, see you next time in the next issue on the news issue. I'm your host, Aisyah Mastura. Have a good day, everyone.
You wanna come in?